Hello students, welcome to YouTube channel Vidya for Success. Dear students, in this video let us study the primary memory. So before heading into this discussion, once again let me recall the concepts of computer memory. Computer memory is a location in the computer where can store, hold large amount of data. Data can be program, instructions or intermediate results, anything it can be. So computer memory are broadly classified into two types, primary memory and secondary memory. So in this video we will be studying only the part of the computer memory that is we will be concentrating only on primary memory, that is RAM as well as ROM. So what is meant by RAM, or also referred as random access memory? So primary, usually whenever we buy a computer, we mainly look out for what is the main memory, what is the primary memory storage area. In case if you have large amount of primary memory, I mean to say maybe 2 GB, 3 GB or else like that 8 GB RAM capacity, then large amount of active programs can be stored in the primary memory. So it will be helpful for the CPU to execute instructions at the faster rate. So it is always recommended, whenever you want to buy a computer, you need to look out for the primary memory storage ability. So what is the storage space of the primary memory? Now talking about the primary memory, in primary memory there are two different types of memory. The first one is RAM, also referred as random access memory. So what is this random access memory? So random access memory or RAM is also referred as a main memory of the computer. Why it is called so? Because if the CPU execute any of the instructions or data, that instruction copy needs to be present in RAM. If that instruction, if that particular data, if it is residing in a pen drive or a floppy or a hard disk, it's of no use. That instruction need to be fetched from hard disk and it should be brought to the primary memory, that is RAM in the first. From here it will be supplied to the CPU. So only if the RAM is having this primary information, then only the CPU can execute, or else it cannot execute. That's why here RAM is referred as main memory of the computer. Okay, next, RAM is also referred as read-write memory. So why it is referred as read-write memory? Because the content onto the RAM, the information or data onto the RAM can be written any number of times. Similarly, you can read any number of times. There is no restriction. So that's why RAM is also referred as read-write memory. You can write onto the RAM, at the same moment you can read from the RAM any number of times. And RAM is very accessible to the user. You can buy RAM from the any shop, hardware shop, I mean to say computer hardware shop. You can easily, if you want, you can add it to onto your motherboard. So it is a very simple accessible device. As you can notice here, as I said earlier in the video, what is memory? Memory is a collection of chips on a circuit board. So here you can notice here, this is a circuit board. On the circuit board there are too many different memory devices, chips that is embedded. Or else memory can also be referred as circuit board connected to the motherboard. In the second picture you can notice here, a RAM is connected to the motherboard. It is inserted to the motherboard. There will be a RAM slot available on the motherboard, onto which you will be inserting the RAM card. You can notice here there are 4 RAM sticks here. Okay, so like you can there will be, you can add this RAM to the RAM card, to the RAM circuit card to the motherboard. Next, what does it random access memory means? What is the meaning of random access? So the memory is accessible randomly. Nothing but there are actually two different types of accessing the memory. One is sequential access, another one is random access. Sequential access is nothing but accessing the data within the memory sequentially, one after another. That is referred as sequential memory accessing. If you have noticed earlier tape recorder cassettes, in a cassette there maximum there will be, let us say, 10 songs will be there. If you want to play any of the song, you need to go from the starting. Let us say I want to play the 4th song, directly I cannot go and pick the 4th song. I need to go pass on from the first song, later second song, third song, and I can go with the 4th song. Then only I can play the 4th song. So directly I cannot pick any of the data in the sequential memory. But here RAM is having the ability of what? Random access. We can pick any of the data which is present in the RAM directly. We need not have to go sequentially one after another. ಎಲ್ಲ ಡಾಟಾನು ನೋಡು ಒಂದಾದ್ಮೇಲೆ ಒಂದು process ಮಾಡಿ ಹೋಗಬೇಕು ಅಂತಿಲ್ಲ. You can directly pick any of the data, just like within our pen drives or within our hard disk ಅಲ್ಲಿ say we can pick any of the data directly. In the same fashion here also we can pick the data directly. So that's why RAM is having the random access property ಇದೆ. Along with that, the RAM is also having another property called as volatile in nature anta refer ಮಾಡ್ತೀವಿ. Okay, RAM is a volatile memory. So what does it mean volatile ಅಂತ ಹೇಳಿದ್ರೆ, nothing but the content stored in the RAM will be there as long as power supply is there to the computer. As soon as we switch off the computer, the contents preserved in the RAM will be completely erased. So this is what volatile means. Okay, so what is volatile memory? RAM is a volatile memory. The content stored in the RAM will be temporary in nature. It will be stored until a power supply is there to the RAM. Whenever the power supply goes off, the content which has been stored in the RAM will be completely erased. So this is what volatile memory means. Next, the access time of RAM is very fast compared to the hard disk. If the data is stored in your hard disk or else any other pen drive like that, the information or else the time taken to retrieve the information from the hard disk when compared to RAM is completely different. So you will be utilizing only little time, maybe in microseconds or nanoseconds. You will be utilizing only little time to retrieve the data from the RAM when compared to the hard disk. So accessing is quite fast with respect to RAM. So what is RAM? RAM is a primary memory. It is also referred as a main memory of the computer. So in primary memory there are two types, RAM and ROM. So we are studying about RAM. Next, RAM is volatile memory and it is a read-write memory and it is having the random access property. Next, let us study the different types of RAM. There are two different types of RAM. The first one is referred as static RAM and the second one is dynamic RAM. So what is static RAM? Nothing but a type of RAM in which the content stored will be preserved, will be stored until power goes off. Okay, so static RAM is a type of RAM in which content will be preserved as long as the power supply is on. So when the power supply goes off, then the content or information stored in the static RAM will be completely erased. That is not a problem with the static RAM. All the computers what we are using, so all of them, they will be going with static RAM. The second variety is called as a dynamic RAM. So what is dynamic RAM? So it is also a variety of RAM. The content stored in the dynamic RAM need to be refreshed every few milliseconds. Okay, nothing but dynamic RAM is just like Gajni. Every few milliseconds you need to refresh it. You need to refresh the contents, or else the data stored in the dynamic RAM will be lost. Even if you are giving power, okay, even if there is a power supply, even then the data will be lost in the dynamic RAM. So that's why we need to refresh the content preserved in the dynamic RAM too often, for every few milliseconds. Because of this reason, dynamic RAM is cheaper but static RAM is costlier. Okay, so this is the thing with respect to. Next, another type of primary memory is ROM, also referred as read-only memory. So what is this read-only memory? So as the name itself is indicated, it is just a read-only memory. Nothing but the content stored in the RAM can only be read. You cannot write. But on the other hand, RAM is read-write memory. You can write as well as you can read data from the RAM. But here that is not possible. Only content can be read any number of times from the ROM. Okay, that's why it is referred as read-only memory. Even ROM is also having the property of random access. Okay, so directly you can pick any of the information from the ROM. You need not have to read or process data sequentially. Along with that, ROM is non-volatile in nature. So what does it non-volatile means here? Nothing but the content stored in the ROM will not be erased even if power supply goes off. Okay, even in the event of power outage, the content stored in the ROM will be permanently stored. It will not be erased. Okay, so why it is necessary? Why you need to have a ROM chip in onto our motherboard or in our computer? Very important thing to be noticed here is whenever we switch on our computer, the computer will make certain tests referred as post test, power on self test, and also it will make sure whether all the hardware devices are connected properly or not. Every time we cannot initialize these parameters, every time we cannot set the date, every time we cannot set the username and passwords, and the computer has to perform few operations by itself. We cannot set the parameters every time. So in order to do all these background things or else important tasks every time you switch on the computer, few of the instructions need to be preserved permanently in a particular dedicated area. So where it can be stored, so these data or instructions can be preserved in a ROM chip. Okay, so ROM chip will be embedded on a motherboard directly. It will be present on a motherboard. So this will be preserving the important instructions. These instructions are given by the manufacturer. For example, as soon as you switch on the computer, you'll be getting who is the manufacturer of this particular motherboard, and what type of things you can do with your computer, how to reboot, how to set up, all the things. These are vital informations which we cannot erase it. This is permanent in nature, and this is required for the computer to perform its own task, some of the preliminary task. So that's why these contents need to be preserved in ROM. So that's why it is referred as read-only memory. Next, so it is a non-volatile memory. There are different types of ROM. That is very important. The first one is PROM. What is PROM? Programmable read-only memory. Okay, so what does it mean, programmable read-only memory? Nothing but the memory, usually ROM content will be decided by the manufacturer. We cannot decide it. So at the time of installing or embedding these ROM chips onto the motherboard, we are going for a PROM, programmable read-only memory, then we can decide what should be the instructions, what should be the content that need to be placed in the ROM only once. Okay, so PROM stands for programmable read-only memory. The user decides the contents of the PROM. Okay, and also sometimes it all depends. Usually ROMs are used in lot of devices, not only in the computers. They are used in our high definition cameras. They are used in lot of other, let us say, they are also used in our smartphones. When we switch off and switch on our smartphones, the smartphone has to perform certain initially, what to say, preliminary task. All these instructions, they are stored in the ROM, and the user can decide some of the contents. If the user wants to decide some of the contents or instruction, then we have to go for PROM, that is programmable read-only memory. Okay, so the special equipment called as PROM programmer is available for programming the PROM. So there is a special programmable gadget is available, using which we can program what the instruction need to be present within the PROM. Second one is EPROM, that is erasable programmable read-only memory. Okay, erasable programmable read-only memory. The first variety, that is in PROM, we can store the information, or else we can program the ROM only once. Okay, but in EPROM, the instruction can be changed, can be reprogrammed again. That's why, in case if there is a situation in certain gadgets where it needs to be reprogrammed, the instructions or initialization parameters now when they need to be changed, then we can go for EPROM. So EPROM stands for erasable programmable read-only memory. So how to change the instruction? Let us say that at the time of manufacturing, the manufacturer has decided some contents, but we are having the liberty to change it later. So how to change it? Then we need to expose this particular EPROM. We need to take out this EPROM from the motherboard. Later it should be kept under a high intensity UV light for around 20 minutes. Okay, so first of all, you need to take out the EPROM from the motherboard, and it should be kept under a high intensity ultraviolet rays for 20 minutes. Then the content can be erased, and later again it can be reprogrammed. Okay, so this is the story of EPROM. Similarly, there is a third variety called as EEPROM, electrically erasable programmable read-only memory. So In the second, with respect to the second ROM, that is EPROM, you have to take out that particular ROM chip from the motherboard. It should be placed in the under ultraviolet rays for 20 minutes. So lot of procedures. At the time of you taking out the ROM chip, it is a delicate piece of gadget. There is a chance of it breaking down. So better option is, instead of taking it out from the motherboard or some any other gadget for that matter, if it is possible to delete the information there only, then that's the best option. So using the third variety, that is electrically erasable programmable read-only memory, you can do this. You can achieve this particular thing. So that nothing but here we will be passing certain electrical pulses. Via these electrical pulses, you can erase the contents present on the ROM chip. Okay, so an electrical erasable readable programmable read-only memory can be programmed through the use of special electrical pulses. And it is possible to integrate the circuit into the computer itself. So there is no need to take the ROM chip out of the computer, then it should be kept under the ultraviolet, no such thing. So the circuitry, the programmable device will be kept within the computer itself. There only you can delete the data, and again you can write once again the data instructions which is necessary for your ROM. So this is what EPROM is. And the fourth one is flash memory. Nothing but all of you have know about the flash cards. So what is flash card? Nothing but card just like a pen drives. So in which you can store the data, and which is much faster compared to our usual other storage devices. They are all referred as flash memories, in which you can store data permanently as well. They are referred as flash memories. Okay, so these are the different varieties of ROM. So in this particular video, we have studied what is meant by RAM. RAM is volatile in nature. RAM is having random access property, and RAM is a read-write, is having a read-write memory concept. Okay, but in RAM there are two different varieties. The first one is static RAM, another one is dynamic RAM. In ROM is a read-only memory. It is also having the random access property, but it is only a read-only memory, and it is non-volatile in nature. There are four different types of ROM. The first one is PROM, second one is EPROM, third one is EEPROM, and